Now I'm going to begin the recording. Once more, welcome to this online worship service for First Parish Church of Kingston, Massachusetts. I am going to introduce our speaker once more. We have with us today the Reverend Mary Margaret Earl, Executive Director and Senior Minister of the UU Urban Ministry. First Parish of Kingston has had a long relationship with the Urban Ministry, partnering with the Renewal House program for more than 25 years now. And we are delighted to have Mary Margaret with us to speak and to continue that relationship as we learn what it looks like to be partners in a time of pandemic and of distancing. I'm going to hand it over now to our worship associate, Dennis Randall, for some additional words of welcome.
Yes, welcome one and all. If this is your first time here, you are welcome no matter where you are in your journey. We've all come from someplace and we're all going to someplace. But right now we are together, we are a congregation, and we're united in spirit. Welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. We have an opening hymn this morning, hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. So I'm going to mute everyone and then share that. There will be audio for those of you who are on the phone, and for those of you who are on Zoom, you will also have the slides with the lyrics, and you are invited to sing along from wherever you are.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful, may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
With gratitude to Kathy Kay for recording that for us. Now is the time in our service when we come to light our chalices. I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Mary Margaret Earl.
I bring you opening words and the chalice lighting. Come into this moment with your whole self. Come in with the hurts and hopes of the weeks and months behind us. Come in with a broken heart. Come in with your fears. Come in with your loneliness. Come in with bird song and sun rising. Come in holding fistfuls of anger or frustration. Come in with a story of your life. Come in seeking grounding in community, seeking a compass. Come willing to sit with a not knowing. Come in open. Come in remembering that you are beloved. At the bottom of the deepest well of unknowing, at the center of all else, you are beloved. You are beloved. You are beloved. Have faith and come in. Welcome. I light the chalice this morning with using the words of Galway Kinnell. Our work is to open ourselves to be the flames.
Thank you.
Today's reading, when death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering what it's going to be like, that cottage of darkness. And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, towards silence. And each body a lion of courage, and something precious to this earth. When it is over, I want to say all my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was a bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it is over, I do not want to wonder if I made of my life something particular and real. I do not want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. That's the end.
Thank you, Dennis. We have another hymn to share, hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Again, I invite you to mute and to sing along from where you are. This one is led by Paula Fisher.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Good morning, dear people. It is good to be with Kingston folk. This is a congregation with a long and deep history with the UU Urban Ministry, mostly through faithful work supporting the families of Renewal House. I arrive here this morning with gratitude for the years you have brought summertime joy and holiday blessings to so many survivors and their children. Since arriving at the UU Urban Ministry 6 years ago, I have attended the Kingston-sponsored holiday burst of love in our Putnam Chapel, when you carry in a caravan of celebration, trays of casseroles and plates of sweets, armfuls of pine boughs and pine cones and ribbons to make festive wreaths. I've listened to the carols led by guitar and watched the crafts and games led in our classrooms. Last summer, I came with our Renewal House families to the lake with you. When you shared a bounty of food and hospitality, I watched children wade into the water and eat too many cookies. The bonds between our institutions and our people are deep and sweet and lasting. So it is lovely to be here. Lovely to worship with my wonderful colleague, the Reverend Monica Jacobson Tennyson, who has been so welcoming and supportive of the work of the urban ministry. And it is a gift this morning to thank and acknowledge Marianne Barrow, who has led Kingston's effort for Renewal House for so many years. There's something really special about persevering through the long haul, seeing partnership as not just a passing fancy, but a commitment. Thank you, Marianne. I know our shelter manager out of Guadalupe would love to be with you in person to thank you and to hug you. And thank you to all the casserole makers and cookie bakers and drivers and faithful stewards of the relationships that bring joy. This year has disrupted our connection as it has disrupted so much else. This is the pain of this year. This is a painful moment, and we are alive in a painful time. Separated by pandemic, alarmed by the baffling gulf in perspectives between Americans on things such so basic as science. It may feel that we are living through the worst possible moment. And we are awakening, beginning to be awakened to the truth and legacy of racism, jolted by the killing of George Floyd in the spring and the Black Lives Matter uprising in the streets in the summer. White people have begun to more fully face the truth of the legacy of enslavement. It may feel that we are living through the worst possible moment, but in fact, we are alive at the best possible moment. This is a moment when each of us has an uncommon opportunity to help this world give birth to something new. We have a moment when we can each push toward healing our world. It is the outward work of change making, yes, but it also is the opportunity to continue our own spiritual journeys. And that is also the work of joy. So this morning, I want to walk with you on that journey, the journey that I have been on. 6 years ago, I arrived at the urban ministry in Roxbury after a decade of serving the homeless community in Providence, Rhode Island. I arrived to serve the survivors of domestic violence, to ensure educational opportunity for Boston high school students, and to serve the Roxbury community. For those of you less familiar with the urban ministry, we are 190 years old, a Boston-based nonprofit built upon our UU values. We have about 50 member congregations around Greater Boston, like First Parish Kingston. Over those nearly 2 centuries, we've done many things: founded an Asian appropriate food pantry, built elder housing, run a free legal clinic. In 2020, we do 3 basic things. We serve survivors at our Renewal House shelter. And a few years ago, we built a job readiness program for survivors from programs all across Greater Boston. We provide tutoring and after-school programming to Boston high school students of color seeking to level the educational playing field and help with college applications. We teach young people an appreciation for history and use our historic campus in Roxbury as a living classroom to give historic walking tours. And finally, we engage the Roxbury community, especially through the arts and humanities and through partnership in the neighborhood. But there is a heartbeat that is underneath these programs. And it is the work of living into our location at the intersection between white suburbs and Boston's historic African-American community in Roxbury, where our campus stands. The heartbeat is living into the question that that intersection raises and the longing for an answer. The heart of our work is building connections across the gulf of city and suburb, white and Black, so that together we can dismantle racism and confront white supremacy, the white supremacy that upholds all our institutions, that dwells within us, and that impacts so many of the survivors at Renewal House. The heartbeat of our work is justice, and especially the work for racial justice. That work can sound heavy and hard. If you were to close your eyes for a moment and imagine what the work for racial justice looks and sounds like, is it the movement of feet on pavement, the risk of arrest, writing a message on cardboard signs, the sound of loud voices on the common, action, steps, motion? All of this outward action, yes, but there is also an inner path to this work, the path of our journey as we seek to heal and be healed from racism. In the book Healing Zen, author Ellen Burks, a nurse who works with ill patients, described the work of caregivers for those who are sick. And she writes this: healing is not only physical and psychological, it is also spiritual. People define spiritual in many ways. What most of these definitions have in common is that spiritually has to do with the essence and meaning of life. Spirituality influences values and how your life is lived. It opens you to the mystery and wonder of life and fills you with energy and vitality. She wrote, spirituality results in a deep sense of connection with people, all creatures and the earth. Spiritual development manifests in love and compassionate action. Burks was writing of the work of healing patients who are sick. We are tasked with healing a country that is sick. The spiritual work of racial justice, of dismantling white supremacy, dismantling racism, of undertaking the work that will ask us to peer into the foundations of the criminal justice and economic and educational system, will also ask us to peer deeply into ourselves. When I arrived at the urban ministry in the fall of 2014, I came ready to do the work for survivors and young people. I didn't come to talk about racism. I wasn't ready for it. And on one of my first days, the police officers in Ferguson, Missouri, who had killed Michael Brown, were not indicted, and that was announced. That moment propelled the Black Lives Matter movement to the national consciousness. And the urban ministry that day, the urban ministry staff that day came to me and asked me to write a public statement. I didn't know what to say. I was afraid to talk about racism. But that day was the beginning of a new leg of my journey, not just my outward journey for justice, but also my inward journey. And this morning, I wanted to share 4 lessons that I am learning on my own spiritual journey. First, the spiritual journey of dismantling racism asks us to tolerate discomfort and pain. The pain of learning the real history of race in America, the pain of learning the way it privileges white people. In Roxbury, the average lifespan is 59 years old, 30 years less than it is in Back Bay. And we know from the headlines that African Americans are disproportionately incarcerated and have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. Robin DiAngelo in the book White Fragility writes this: race will influence whether we will survive our birth, where we are most likely to live, which schools we will attend, who our friends and partners will be, what careers we will have, how much money we will earn, how healthy we will be, and even how long we can expect to live, she wrote. D'Angelo, who was white, spent years as a diversity and inclusion trainer and saw over and again white people, and especially those who saw themselves as progressive, become so defensive about witnessing white supremacy that their defensiveness protected the systems that perpetuate it. A step on our journey is laying down our defenses, to become aware when our shoulders tighten and we prepare to say, but wait, not me. A step on our journey is to keep opening, waiting, breathing. A step on our journey is the practice of stillness in the face of learning. Black theologian Howard Thurman wrote this: listen to the long stillness. New life is stirring. New dreams are on the wing. New hopes are being readied. Humankind is fashioning a new heart. When we still our defenses and open, something new may emerge. A second lesson on my journey, and this is hard, it is letting go of goodness. Our task is not to be good or to seem good. Our task is to pay attention. Our task is being willing to look at what needs to be seen. In the book I mentioned, White Fragility, D'Angelo describes that our biggest hurdle in addressing racism is white intolerance to thinking that we participate in the systems that uphold racism, in seeing how those systems benefit us. She writes, I could see the power of the belief that only bad people were racist. I could see how we were taught to think about racism as only discrete acts committed by individual people rather than as complex, interconnected systems. It became clear that if I believed that only bad people who intended to hurt others because of race could ever do so, then I would respond with outrage to any suggestion that I was involved with racism. She wrote, of course, that belief would make me feel falsely accused of something terrible. And of course, I would want to defend my own character. When we protect our sense of being good at the expense of seeing truth, we risk doing more harm. None of us created the world into which we were born. We were born into a nation built upon enslavement. Our modern police forces were born of slave patrols whose charge was capturing fleeing slaves. Our founding father enslaved people even while writing the Declaration of Independence. It would be impossible to imagine that we did not inhale racism like a villager living by the smokestacks. When we focus on protecting our sense of being good over examining our contribution to racism and white supremacy, we uphold it. We need to trust that we are beloved. That is guaranteed and non-negotiable. And then we need to face what is. My third lesson on my journey is that working towards justice is not just toil. There is joy in this journey, joy in meeting sisters and brothers working alongside us, joy in meeting people new across difference. I work with a group of faith leaders in an organization called Faith and Solidarity. We are UUs and Jewish and Baptist, white and Black and brown. One day we were in a serious conversation about the work for justice and what we were going to do. And one labor leader said all of a sudden, but this is fun. This is actually fun work. And she was right. It is fun. Over the past 6 years, I have had 1,000 hard and challenging moments, scary moments, unsettling moments that I needed to breathe and listen my way through. But I have also met the most wonderful people along the way. That's how this work is. We don't move alone, but we build up human family along the way. And the fourth lesson. Working for justice can bring us closer to our own authentic calling and meaning. In Healing Zen, Birx writes about a shared definition of spirituality. It has to do, she writes, with the essence and meaning of life. Sometimes we think that the work of justice is painful work, and we would prefer to be on the beach sipping a coconut drink. Sometimes I would. But when we pick up the work of the world, when we are willing to climb the mountain towards justice one step at a time, when we are willing to do the work outwardly and inwardly, we step further toward claiming our own purpose. I invite you to join in the work of the urban ministry in whatever way speaks to you and calls you. Even during this pandemic time, we continue to partner in Roxbury. We are offering community conversations once a month, highlighting a speaker virtually from Roxbury to talk about aspects of racism and how it affects all of us. We are amplifying the work of Black artists in Roxbury through videos called virtual galleries and inviting congregations to gather and have virtual showings of them. I invite you to join our mailing list and find out other ways that you can plug into the work that we do in Roxbury each day, even now, even in this upended time. It is hard work and it is truly joyful work, and I would love for you to be involved in it. This is a terrible time to be alive. This is a wonderful time to be alive. This is a moment when each of us has an uncommon potential to help this world give birth to something new. And from Mary Oliver again, when it's over, I want to say all my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. Amen, and blessed be. And our closing hymn is number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot speak like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
My gratitude to Kara Roth for leading us in that song. I see we've got a thread going in the chat for folks who are not yet on the UU Urban Ministry mailing list. Go ahead and keep putting your emails in there. I also am going to add to the chat our link for online giving, because at this time in our service, we will enjoy a little more music for reflection and we will receive an offering for the work of this congregation. We know that when each person brings what they have to give, the sum of all that giving enables us to do wonderful things in the world as we strive to work for love and justice. So if giving online works for you, the link is here in the chat. If you give in other ways, we are grateful for those gifts as well. And everything you give is received with such an air of connection and knowing that we are all in this together. Let's see if I can find Tony to spotlight him. Here we go. Thank you, Tony, for some music. Wonderful. Thank you. At this time in our service, the Reverend Mary Margaret Earl has some closing words for us. And then after we have stopped the recording, we will have a moment to share the joys and the sorrows we have brought with us today.
Go out knowing that you have gifts to bring to this world. Go out knowing that this is a hard time, but this is a beautiful time, and the world is waiting for the gifts that you bring to it. Go out in peace and hope and in faith. Amen.